Okay, I'm going to go over the study guide for our first common assessment for this spring semester. So just again, I want to advise you to pause the video and do as much as you can on your own, and rewind the video and replay as much as you need, okay? All right, number one, give the domain and range of the given relation. Remember, domain means all x values, okay? And then the range means all the y values. But when you write the domain and the range, make sure you don't repeat the numbers. Just write it once. So in this case, the domain is -1, 2, and -5, and you don't have to rewrite -1. And the range is -9, 21, and 7, and don't need to rewrite -9. So the domain, we have -1, 2, and 5, and then -9, 7, and 21. So it looks like it's A, because it's definitely not B. There's not even a 0 here. C, or here, they shouldn't even repeat, and they're missing the 7. Here, they've got all of them in 1, so that doesn't make sense, and there's not even a 0. And then here, it looks like they switched it. So the domain should be here, and the range should be here. Okay, so A is the correct answer. This could be a possible trap because they reversed it. Okay. Number two, which relation is a function? Now this one, we had a typo. This should have been a -7, because if you look at all the x values, okay, remember all we look at are the x values. That's all we care about. And if in the relation any of the x values repeat, then it's not a function. So here, the zeros repeat, so this is not a function. Here, the -2's repeat, so not a function. Here, every x value is a -2. That's already repeating, so that's not a function. Here, if we didn't correct the typo, then this would also not be a function. But since we made this a -7, that a +7, this is going to be the relation, or that's a function. Again, please pause the video and do as much as you can on your own. If you get stuck, come back and listen to the explanation and see if that helps you. Number three, given the domain and range, or give the domain and range of for the mapping diagram, determine if it is a function. So one key thing is make sure you pay attention to the last part, because if you don't read from beginning to end and you miss out on these, you might have gotten the first part right, but what if they change it up on you on the second part? So pay attention to that. This is always the domain, this is always the range because of the order that it's going in. You start here, these are your x values, and these are your y values. So the domain should be -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. None of them repeat. So it should be this one, because that's the only one that has the correct domain. But here, let's see, 3, 5, 11, 21. Now the 5 gets repeated, but we don't need to repeat it. So 3, 5, 11, 21. Okay, now make sure that it is a function, because there are no repeating x values. Okay, so C is the correct answer. Now, number 4, we accidentally have two answers, but it says for which value of x is a relation not a function. So here's your x, right? Now look at all the other x values. If this x value repeats with any of these, then it's going to make it not a function. So for example, if I put a -1 in here, then it's going to repeat with that one. That will make it not a function, which makes it correct answer. But there's actually two answers here. If you put a 3 in here, okay, and make this a 3, then it repeats with that 3, so this is also not a function. This value will also make this relation not a function. If you put a 6 in there, okay, that's okay, because all the other x's are not a 6. And if you put a 4 in there, that'll still make it a function, so that doesn't matter. But these two will make it not a function. Okay, number 5. Determine if the graph below represents a function. So basically, make sure this relation is a function because it passes the vertical line test. So draw the vertical line test, a vertical line anywhere, and every single time it only passes the graph once, intersects the graph once. So it does. So it is a function. It's not. So it's not B or D, because that's saying it's not. So it is a function because it fails? No, because it passes. So A is the correct answer. Always be sure like why the other answer choices don't make sense, okay, so that you can be more confident. All right, number 6. I need to go open the door. Hold on one second. Okay, so number 6, it says, given the function f of x equals -2x minus 4, evaluate to determine the value of f of x when x equals -3. So literally, what it's saying is to go ahead and put a -3 in here, And so you got to put the -3 where the x is. Then subtract the 4. So now you got to do PEMDAS, which means you're going to multiply first and then subtract the 4. So f of -3, remember this side is just a rewriting, okay? It's just the name of the function with its input. Here is where you're actually applying the rule. So you got to do -2 times -3 first. So -2 times -3. Oops, -2 times -3. And then subtract 4. So you should get 2. 6 minus 4, which is 2. So the answer is 2. Now if you want to write it as an ordered pair, you can put -3, comma 2. But this is the correct answer, okay? All right, number 7. This one is going to take a little bit of work, but that's okay. Number 7, which table is an input or output table for the function f of x equals -1/2 x minus 4? Okay, so sorry if the video is lagging a little bit, but just stick with me, okay? So basically that what it's saying is, like, let's say I decide to try C. I should be able to put the 1 in here, do the work, okay, 1 times -1/2 minus 4, and does it come out to be -4.5? So let me change this to a -0.5, okay? So because if you take 1/2, if you do 1 divided by 2, 1 divided by 2, that's 0.5, and then make it negative, and that's what this is. So -0.5 times 1, then minus 4, times 1, then minus 4. That actually gives me a -4.5, okay? Which means this could be a possible 1. But if you put a 1 here, I get a positive 4.5, so this is wrong. So A is out. And if when I put it a 1, I didn't get a -3.5, so this out. So really it's between these two. Now if I want to be a smart test taker, if you look 2, you see that 2 also gives us a -5. So what I want to do is I'm going to skip that. I'm going to check the 3 because this one gives me a 5.5. This one gives me a -5.5. Whichever one is correct, that's the one I'm going to go with. So I'm going to go back to my original rule. I have a -0.5 times, and let's try putting a 3 in there this time. So 0.5 negative times 3, and then minus 4. So minus 4 equals -5.5. So it's the negative that separates it from this one, so it has to be this one. By process of elimination, this has to be the correct one. Okay, again, if I'm going too fast, pause the video, replay, whatever it takes. Now this one in class, I showed you guys that the graph kind of blends in, but this one was where this is what the graph's supposed to look like, okay? So is the graph of the relation below a function? No. And the reason why is if you draw a vertical line, for example, here, it goes right through the graph one time. But if you put it like, for example, here, it goes through here, 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 here. All these points that are here, 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 it fails right here or right here. Anytime you have a vertical line, it's failing, all right? Let's see if I can focus this a little bit better. Yes, no, okay. All right, so then explain your reasoning below. The graph does not pass, or you can just say fails, the vertical line test. Okay? All right. Number 9. Given the function below, given the function table below for the function f of x equals 3x plus 1, determine the range. So it looks like they give you all the x values. So basically you just need to plug these in. So like, for example, plug in the -1 here. And that becomes 3 times -1 plus 1. And then plug in the 0 here. That's 3 times 0 plus 1. Then plug in the 6 here. That becomes 3 times 6 plus 1. So when you do the math, you always have to do multiplication first, not because these are the first two numbers, because multiplication happens before addition. So this is going to be a -3 plus 1, that's a -2. So do I have a -2 here? Yep. This one and this one doesn't, so it's not these. And then 3 times 0 is 0, plus 1 equals a 1. Yep, there's a 1, there's a 1. Looks like I'm going to have to check the third one. 3 times 6 is a 18, plus 1 is a 19, so that one is this one. So D is the correct answer. Number 10, temperature changes throughout the hours of the day. Yes, early in the morning, temperature increases slowly. At noon, the temperature drops slightly. During the afternoon, the temperature stays the same for a few hours. As afternoon transitions to evening, the temperature continues to drop. Choose the graph that best represents temperature change throughout the day. All right, so let's start here. Early in the morning, temperature increases slowly, so it should be going up. So these are all going up. Okay, that doesn't help me. At noon, the temperature drops slightly. This is dropping. This one keeps going up, so it can't be that. This one's increasing, so it can't be that. This was increasing, so it can't be that. Well, let's see if this makes sense. Sorry, guys, I'm just quickly going to have to finish this up. It drops slightly, okay. During the afternoon, the temperature stays the same. That's what's happening here. And then as afternoon transitions to evening, it continues to drop. So A makes the most sense, okay. 11, Courtney belongs to a health club that charges a monthly fee of $20. That's your rate of change. Plus $85 to join. That's your initial value. Write a function to represent her costs. So the rate of change goes here, and 85 goes here. How much has she paid after 6 months? Okay, so 85. Okay. Sorry, guys. So after 1 month, okay, she's paid the 85 plus the 20, okay, which is 85 plus 20 is 105. After the second month, you have to add another 20 to that, so that's 125. Then after that, you have to add another 20, that's 145. Add another 20, that's 165. Add another 20, that's 185. Add another 20, that's going to be 205. So after 6 months, she's paid $205. I hope that makes sense, but if you need, if that one to do that quickly and all this announcements going on in the background, do the best you can and rewind and try again and see if you can figure these numbers out without the video. This is the end of the video. I hope you guys do great, and again, I apologize for the announcements at the end.